Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, and welcome to this morning's A Different Perspective. I am always so excited with you guys to join me on Saturday mornings. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. What's the date today? 13th? Yeah, 13th, I think it is. Or no, is it? It's 15th. There we go. I always forget what day it is that way, but 15th. Welcome. And I have not been here for a little while. I've been traveling all over the United States from, oh my goodness, I went to Iowa, Minnesota, Hawaii, a bunch of other places. Yes, I went to Hawaii again for some good business stuff and some things that we are doing. So I've been all over, but I so miss the studio so much, being with you guys, sharing the information that makes the Wellness Way so special across the world. But before we get started, I want to thank Dr. Jason Nobles and Dr. Jeremy for doing the last couple of ADPs. You guys did such a fantastic job in the topic of allergies, which we will continue for a short time today because we have to cut the show early today because something very exciting is today. As you guys know, health and lifestyle and foods and testing and everything is a big part of our life. So what we did, I was approached by this wonderful lady some years ago, and she is a trained chef. She trained in a place out in Vail for a farm-to-table organic cooking, and she approached me some years ago. She was part of our academy, and she said, Doc, one day I'd really like to start a restaurant with you. And I was like, okay, great, that sounds fantastic. I absolutely look forward to it. And then she became, she's up from Upper Michigan. She continued to develop that stuff, and then one day approached me and said, hey, I would really like to open that way. So what we did is we started what we call, and she came up with the name, the FARMACY. Okay, the pharmacy spelled obviously with F-A-R-M, not the pharmacy like pharmaceuticals. So what ended up happening is we ended up opened our restaurant a couple months ago, and it's been absolutely fantastic. The food, the reviews, everything have been incredible. Everything about it is amazing, and we opened it up, and today is our grand opening. So we have the ribbon cutting at 9 o'clock this morning. So I figured I'd jump on since I haven't been on for a couple weeks and go through some of the things that are happening here. And then I have to run downstairs and join everybody. There's already a ton of people outside in the parking lot because we open up at 8. Oh wait, so we just opened up. So there's people out there that are getting food right now, but we do have our ribbon cutting at 9 o'clock. So I'm gonna cut it a little short today, but I just wanted you guys to get a couple out there because guess what, guys? I missed you. I missed the audience like crazy. I watched Dr. Jason and Dr. Jeremy when I was traveling. I did pop on, and they did such a wonderful job. But I always miss being with you guys because as I love Instagram and I love TikTok and I love doing the Q&As that way, honestly, Saturday mornings are my favorite time of the week because I get to go a little bit more detail, a little bit more long format, and therefore, as things evolve, as our media has evolved, and we have literally get millions and millions of views, I want to share some things that are changing here. The show is going to change a little bit. It's going to continue to get better. We're going to have more things that we're adding to it. But there's something that I have to announce today as we have the grand opening of our wonderful restaurant, The Pharmacy. I want to talk about something that you're going to see pop up on the screen right now. It's the basis of my life, okay? It's called I Disagree. It started everything. It really did. It started everything. And I had a conversation with my mother, who my mother actually is, she's retired, but she works here and she does a wonderful job in our department. But, if you ever want to do something fun, I'm 48, I'll be 49 this year coming up. And you sit back and talk to your mom, and my mom is basically 20 years older than me. So she's 68, can be 69 coming up. And all of a sudden, we're just talking about stuff. And it was interesting because I always said, Mom, I don't know what it was. But, if a teacher said one thing, I thought the other. If you said one thing, I thought the other. And it's something like, it's like God programmed me to disagree with everybody. You understand? It's like, it's black. Is it? And it's really funny because here, I want to teach you something. Let's say somebody has an extremely bad belief. Honestly, and you see this all the time. You do, okay? There's people that believe some crazy stuff, okay? You can pick from religions, you can pick from healthcare, you can pick from marriages, you can pick from anything, and guess what happens? People have some crazy beliefs. But all you need to do is to get them to start to think about it, is plant a little seed of doubt. That's it. And they can work until the opposite. They can go, is Dr. Patrick really this way? You're saying, and all I have to do is put a little doubt. But that's one thing. But when you're so for sure of something, No one can put any doubt in it. And I can honestly tell you, no one can put any doubt on what I've done and what I have continued to do and what our company continues to do and the forms of healthcare, what we do. And it's kind of this. No one has ever put it in a doubt of the health principles. I was thinking about the other day. I was really thinking about this when I was going through some of the things about allergies, is their perspective changes consistently. So people say, Doc, I love that you have a different perspective. I'll say, you know something, medicine has a different perspective than me, but their principles change all the time. They really do. Like I said, I'm just starting to put together a show just on the history of medicine, and they say it's evolution, but evolution means the fact that you build upon something, something that has already had a foundation. They don't have an evolution. Their things change constantly. Do you understand? And if the last 3 years hasn't proven that to you, then you haven't been seeing the history of it. Because once again, if I were to, let's say this, everybody knows that something that I've always liked, but I'd rather do it a little differently. But the idea is this, is just doing cold plunges. What if I said to you, what I want you to do in your cold plunge is I want you to put a bunch of leeches in there, okay? See, everybody, even in the studio, just laughed about that. But do you understand that was a form of healthcare, saying you guys have bad blood, we're gonna put some leeches to it, and it's gonna help you get healthy. Not a joke. That used to be a form of healthcare that was accepted. And even though we just didn't advance leeches, we didn't build upon the leech theory, we actually did, well, I guess I could make a funny there, but we'll save that for a different topic. But anyways, the purpose of I Disagree has done everything. And then what we did is, because of the prospect of 20 years, we put the book together. And when we put the book together, everything in that book is an evolution of when the foundation started, back when I was a teenager, to when I met Christy and all of her female health problems, to all the things we've done clinically, and it built upon through the years. And I just always said, something, I disagree with everything that's going on out there. And then all of a sudden, you know what happened 3 years ago. And the reason why I have to talk a little bit this way, because it's really funny. I got another strike on YouTube. No idea why. I have no idea why I got another strike and stuff. That's okay. I really don't really care that much and stuff. But the idea is this, is what happened over the last 3 years, guess what happened? As you saw, a lot of people complied. People that do not, go along with rational thought, or even, as they would say, science. And so therefore, but something? I saw it coming right away. I said, something, I disagree. I do. And so I have so many stories that led up to it. And I said, something, we're going to put this in book form. And then our lead investigative journalist got together with me and Christy and some other people, and we put the book together. And no joke, everybody, when publishers read it, they said it's going to be a bestseller. Well, within 1 week, it became an international bestseller. And then, it's kind of, the material is still so valid, because once again, it's based on the foundational things that way. And so we said, okay, listen, I was sitting together with our team, our absolutely wonderful, amazing team. Someone messaged me yesterday, said, man, you speak so highly of your team. You call them amazing all the time. They are freaking amazing. So we are. They're all like, we are. You would think that all this stuff and the book and everything and stuff was put together just by me. Then you guys think I am much better than I really am. Do you understand? I can honestly tell you, it's the majority of stuff, the vast majority of stuff that you see, comes from an amazing team. Okay, so all these things are put together, and we got together with the team, and because the Hormone Connection Seminar was so very popular, and I stopped it because there were some big life changes. There were some big personal life changes, business life changes like crazy. And I needed, we even transformed our company, the evolution of things, trust me. And I can honestly tell you, for you guys that want to understand business and life, not everybody was happy. Downright pissed off at me. Downright, I can honestly say, created some even more haters. Even people that were close to me at one time, as I said, one time. And I'm okay with that. See, because I stood back, always said, I disagree. And I disagree in so many things. I've been vocal about them. I disagree on healthcare stuff, marriage stuff, church stuff, because it all ties in. Because if you think about it this way, I disagree stem from seeing a perspective that could be destructive in people's lives. And guess what happens? I just wanted to be strong enough to say, I disagree. That's it. You don't have to argue with people. Say, I disagree. And you ever notice that if you say that as two words, if someone says, birth control is fantastic for women, and you don't have to argue with them. Just say, I disagree. Do you understand? That's it. And then what they're going to do is they're going to get emotional and try to argue with you and say, I disagree. Well, I don't want to be friends with you. Well, then, okay, that's cool. Do you say, not a joke, things like that happen. And it's skim. So the perspective of it has led to not only the Hormone Connection seminar, because it was a portion of what I disagreed with, and then I've been able to prove it. I've been able to prove it and talk about it and discuss with it. What happened 3 years ago? We need lockdowns, this. I disagree. And once again, and when your things and your ideas are based on principles and not things that are, well, we can say this. Let me give you the major principle that still has never been disproven, but then also has led to why and how I do everything, even clinically. You know, I believe, once again, and you can disagree with me. Here, that's the cool thing is, let me say this to you. You don't have to believe everything I believe. But there's one thing that's different between you and I. I'm out there doing something about it. See, that's the thing. I think this is good. Okay, then go do something about it. Do you understand? And that's why I said, so I just said, when I say disagree, I'm like, okay, then I'm going to put a form of healthcare together, and it doesn't mean that everybody's going to like it. See, and so those things, as I put the hormone seminar together, what it was a conglomeration, an evolution, and a build upon of my clinical care. And it's kind of neat. So what we did, and I started thinking about it this way, but I had more than just hormonal things to talk about, because that's not that. Like I said, if you think about it, that's not what I went to school for. It evolved into it because the ideas I had could apply to all systems of the body. But my major focus was, you know, nutrition and immunology. That was my two loves. And then, of course, as I was evolving my education, I said, you know something? Chiropractors got it going on. And they're wrong. And chiropractic school did not. It really did not. Even some of the student doctors here, they learn more in the 3-6 months that they're here than they ever did in school. Because I looked at school and said, I disagree with what they're teaching them. So I knew it was time. I knew it was time. I sat down with my family. I sat down with my team. I sat down with everybody and said, just like I told you guys, Garth Brooks took a little time off, but he even came out of retirement. So I am going to let you guys know, you guys are the first to know, that the I Disagree seminar is now starting. Now what happens, let me give you a little idea. I have 3 events next month that I'm doing. We already started advertising for them. Tickets are selling like crazy. We're going to do it in 3 different cities. I'll show you in a second. And then I'm going to take a little time off some of that because Aaron Walton, who is once again my lead investigative journalist. We also have our wonderful one, Betsy, and also her daughter, Lauren. We have 3 amazing writers. But we're going to finish off the new book that will be talked about and sold as we travel. And the book, new title, is very simple. I still disagree. See, when you base things on true foundations, guess what happens? They don't change. So the seminar will be called I Disagree. The new book that will be coming out in the fall is called I Still Disagree. Now, I'm a little in a sassy mood because I've been on camera for a while for my things. And when I get old enough and I'm about ready to die, and I don't care about criticism anymore, which I don't really care about that much criticism. I do care what people say around me. I do care. Like I said, when I would say I don't care, what I mean is I don't care what most people think. I care what my team says, my family says, things like that. I really do. I take that to heart. People that are, you know, if Samson Fenley, you know, or Jeremy Maxwell, that comes to me as men and has a concern with me, man, I do care what they say. If Brandon says something that way, you know what I'm saying? But the idea is this. I always said, I thought about my last dying book would be, I told you I was right. Told you I was right. Do you say and I wasn't trying to be right. Because here's what happens, guys. Do this with your wife. Prove to her you're right. I know, look at all the guys who are like, oh, okay, have some discussions, talk about things, but trying to prove that you're right, that means you're wrong. And then if you're a guy, what happens? You're not getting any that night. See, all the guys know, right? It's like proving them that way. It's like, no. Discussion, share your ideas, talk about stuff this way. Don't prove you're right, prove wrong. That's what I'm saying. That's why I told this. I love when people sit behind a camera and attack somebody. If I ever talk about somebody, I'm like, I've already tried to get a hold of them to get on the show. I would love for any vaccine advocate, Fauci, Lane, all these people that sit behind a camera and will never have a debate. I can honestly tell you, I invited every medical person around here from every head of the hospitals that way. Anybody disagreed. I had people that send me nasty letters, and I literally, no joke, this does happen regularly. And Dr. Lucas is here right now, and guess what happens? He sees it every day. I'll get some nasty messages, and I'm like, hey, thank you for your opinion. Would you like to come on the show and share your views? And I don't know why, but nobody ever takes me up on it that way. I'm like, I would respectfully, I will move over. We'll have a chair here. You'll see I've done that with discussions that way. It seems like the only people that want to come on my show are people that agree with me. You understand? But I want you to disagree, because then there can be a dialogue, and there can even be some conversation. And guess what, guys? There can even be some negative feelings. You understand? But that's okay. I don't care how people feel. I don't care how I feel, so why would I care how you feel? You understand? So I'm like, I don't care about feelings. Come on, we'll share some things. And then guess what happens? We can discuss stuff and see. You're going to find out that we probably agree on more, that we disagree. You're going to find out that you'll agree you'll agree with most people on most things. It's just, there's about 20, I always think about this a lot. There's about 20% of things that most people really fight out. 80% of the people, agree about most things. Or 80% of things people mostly agree about that way. They really do. They're like, yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. And there's some stuff you're just like, you're downright crazy. Do you understand? And the craziness is what separates us. And that's okay. Sometimes the craziness needs to be separated. I can tell you there's people in my life that I'm like, you're crazy, get away from me, okay? It's just the nature of things that happen, all right? So that being said, as we continue to evolve and build our media and build everything we're doing, as it seems to grow every single month, we are now, once again, we have our new book coming out. We have our new seminar coming out. We have a new podcast coming out. I have to eat my words. I will always tell you when I've changed my mind, okay? I always told you guys I'm not kind of a podcast person. Well, what I mean is this. I'm not really a podcast person because there's people that say, well, Doc, I want you to get on and just talk. I'm like, no, I got to have some graphics and I got to have some slides of this. But believe it or not, when you're discussing, things that people may disagree upon, you don't need to teach. I like teaching. That's why if you notice, this Saturday show will always be a teaching thing. It really will. It'll always be something to teach. We'll put slides up, we'll do this, so then you can use it almost like a class, all right? And that's why I think I like this Saturday show now. But here's what happens. The reason why I said I'd never do a podcast is because, number one, is I don't want to sit there and just chat or talk, or I just don't want to sit across from somebody in an interview. So, but discussing some things with our team, and because the Hormone Connections seminar has been so popular for so long, I kind of laugh because I see some of the things that are out there today. I'm like going, I've been talking about that for forever. Do you understand? Even from the standpoint of a masculine and feminine aspect, it really has. And I told you this. I massively disagree with things when it comes to healthcare. I massively disagree. You guys know this, especially the last 3 years. Once again, the last 3 years gave us a wonderful opportunity for even me and my thoughts to come out. It really did. Even with churches, even with marriages, even everything. And I massively disagree with a lot of things. And so therefore, we're going to do a podcast. We're going to start a whole new YouTube channel. We're going to start a podcast to where we're going to talk about all the things we disagree about. Capitalism, churches, Christianity, healthcare, marriage, all this stuff. And I'm going to have a panel of people on a table on a regular basis, and we're going to hammer some stuff out. There's going to be times there's all guys on there. There's going to be times there's all women on there. There's times that there's guys and women on there. There's times there's going to be, but you know what's funny? I kind of noticed that when people talk about masculinity and femininity, it's always single people. It's always single people. It's like a bunch of single people get around, they talk about relationships. I'm going, dude, you haven't been married for 20 years. You understand? You haven't been married for 5 years. You know, it's really funny. I've always said this, and this once again, people are gonna disagree with this, and it's okay. I'm like, man, I laugh because all the guys laugh when I say this. I said, if you've been married long enough, there's been times where you just wanted to hold the pillow over your wife's head or your husband's head at one time or another. You know what I'm saying? And both women are like, yes, I want to do that. And Melly goes, yeah. But you know what's really funny? You can't say that. Why? I literally had I actually, as I said, you guys know I'm very critical of the Christian church, especially because why? The last 3 years. Because when times are in trouble, that's where you'll see how people really are. And that's one point. So when times are rough, guess what happens? You'll see what happens in marriage. You'll see what happens in churches. You'll see what happens in healthcare. You'll see what happens. You'll see what happens. And last 3 years put a stress on all those things. It really did. You'll actually find out where you are in a level of problems and pain. And we're going to talk about that stuff. Because have I been through stuff? Hell yeah. See, that's the one thing. You know what's really funny? If you don't want to be criticized for doing stuff, then just stay quiet and stay silent. But you'll never accomplish anything in life. And your kids won't look up to you. They'll look up to people like me. And I'm actually happy about that. Do you understand? I'm happy the fact that I've worked hard for that. And I tell people, say, Doc, do you do everything right? Hell no. But I'm willing to talk about things I also did wrong. Because then people can learn from it. That's why you have these young guys and stuff like that. If you think of it this way, the reason why our company has gotten so big is because a doc called me up and Dr. Brown say, hey doc, what about this? Oh, don't do it, man. Don't do it. I'm begging you, don't do it. This will turn out business-wise horrible for you. But that applies to all things in life. And so we're going to talk about those things. Do I know it's going to be named yet? No, Brandon, we haven't come up with a name yet, have we? Nope. But I can't wait because we're going to have guys on there talking like guys. Like I said, I just sat down with a pastor yesterday and I said, dude, let me give you an example. And it's fine. Now, once again, let me set the things. I always tell people, think about it this way. Everybody wants to talk about the exceptions, not the rules. Everyone wants to talk about the exceptions. See, because that's how people get pissed off, the exceptions. But let's talk about general rules, you understand? And therefore, like I said, this is just my personal belief. I tell people is I just am against abortion. That's me. That's my personal belief. And believe it or not, you can say I disagree, and I'm cool with that. Do you understand this? We can live a very happy life together, disagree on something, as long as you try to force your idea on me. And that means, let's look what happened in healthcare. I believe in the popcorn this. You guys know we call popcorn, otherwise we'll be kicked off everything. Cool. You can believe it. But if your idea tries to force on me, then guess what happens? That's when people see me push back. And I don't care if it's a church idea. I don't care if it's a marriage idea. I don't care what it is that way. You say, no, because here's what happens. The person on the other side gets a choice to live life with me, or me get a choice to live with them, regardless if we have a little bit of disagreements on there. Do you understand? But we can disagree with that. Now, but what people do is this. They'll say, but Doc, you have 4 daughters. And let's say they get raped and they get pregnant. You wouldn't want to, hey guys, listen, let's stop before we even go there. What percentage of that is that? A fraction of a percent, a small percent. Would you agree with me that over 90% plus is just, they're doing it because they just want to, it's birth control? Yes, so let's stop talking about the exceptions. Let's talk about the rules. Do you understand? We'll talk about the rules. See that everyone's talking about exception things on there. Now, in general, there's a lot of things. That's like when you talk about the traits of a man. Well, my wife is well, she's the exception, not the rule. And so therefore, that's what happens. See, that's why even when you look at the body, so there are things that happen as the exceptions. There really is. I love this. To give you an example, it's going to sound funny. The majority, if not 99.5% of high blood pressure has everything to do with lifestyle. And you have this one major factor to where it's truly a congenital disease. And what do you think that they want to call everything? Basically, you have high blood pressure because of genetics. See, what they do is they try to act like that's the standard. It's not true. So we're going to discuss all these things. And believe it or not, oh man, I didn't even think about this. We could literally call the podcast the I Disagree podcast.
That's true.
Never even thought about that. You saying? That's a cool name. Like Brand's like, what you got? You saying? See, sometimes you just figure shit out as you go along. You saying? It could be. That is actually not a terrible idea. Because they could transform a seminar. I'll give them man, you guys are geniuses here today. Thank you for all the input, okay? But the idea is this. The I Disagree seminar, the podcast, the I Still Disagree book coming out. Look, we just figured out something that's great. Write that down. Okay, so I always like that. I'm sorry. One of my favorite actors by far is Ryan Reynolds. And it still is one of his funniest movies he did when he was young. Remember Van Wilder? Remember that movie? Oh my goodness, let's laugh my butt off. I love dumb humor. Once again, let's do this. Over-spiritualized Christian people. I can't believe you watch that filth. Well, I disagree. I can watch it and actually laugh my ass off and hold my daughter, go to church, do everything that way, and I'm not affected by it. And if you are, cool. Do you understand? It's the same kind of thing. Because literally, there's people that, get this, I did this on purpose. I posted a political thing on my Instagram. Lucas, see that? And all it did was show all the people that voted to take your freedoms away for healthcare. They showed them in orange. Yes, and it's dominant, the Democratic Party. And people are like, I can't believe you got political. I'm like, do you know who I am? You know what I'm saying? Have you watched the stuff that I've done and stuff? I wasn't political. I was actually saying jail the people that try to take your freedom away and force a shot in your arm that you didn't want. But see, here's what happens this. It's like people freak out about the exceptions, not the rules. Because I'd say, do you believe in freedom? Yes. Do you think somebody should try to take away your freedom? No. What if they would try to do it? Would you fight them? Yes. Then why do you support people that want to hurt you? I don't get it. And that could be, and that sounds funny, that could be a politician, that could be an individual, that could be a pastor. Do you understand? And speaking of that, I got to finish my story on my pastor. I'm the pastor, not my pastor. And but happens, but he's a good friend, great thing. I think he's done a wonderful job. But I said to him, I said, dude, why don't you get up and speak to men at church instead of women? And he's like, explain. I'm like, dude, I listen to all the churches. I think he's got a very good message, but it's actually made for women. It really is. And people say, I disagree. Well, cool. Then that's the thing. I'm going to make damn it, we are going to call it the I Disagree podcast. Do you know why? Because I'm going to say some shit, and then we're going to see who did. Oh my goodness, that's the basis of the show. I'm going to say, all right, I will say this right now, and please in the comments below, do me a favor, and watch tomorrow. And women, you're going to hate this the most. Go to your church, and it's probably going to be a male pastor speaking, and say, hey, listen. Ooh, I'm gonna do a little sassy stuff today. Say, watch your service, and guess what happens? Do you understand? Ask the majority of males sitting there. They don't want to be there. They don't. I ask guys all the time. They're like, why are you there? Well, because my wife wants to. Well, tell her you want to go. Do you understand? Because honestly, if you don't want to go when you go there, then what's all you're doing is pal-dating your wife. You're not learning. What could you do with all those hours? And so it's really funny. So he goes, okay. He goes, if I spoke like you, I'd lose all my church. I'm like, my goodness. I said, I speak like me, and I have probably 1,000 times bigger audience than you do. So obviously you're missing something. And he goes, okay. He goes, tell me how you would do a man service. And I said, first thing I would do, I'd get up and say, all right, man, if you are broke and you don't have any money, and you're worried about that way, get out of here and get your butt to work. You're not serving God by sitting there being a brokey. And because 80%, number one reason why Christian marriages end is money. So get that boy out there and start making some money. And take that stress off that wife. Take that stress off that family. And he's like, man, that's not a bad idea. Because, sitting to listen to a femme-centric message of a nurturing message, and that's why pastors speak that way. Even a man sitting there will be like, everything's going to be okay. And guess what happens, ladies? It's okay to tell you everything's going to be okay. It's not good to tell a man everything's going to be okay. Because he'll get lazy really fast. And he sits and listens to that mom service, a mom telling a little boy, you're going to be okay. And he's like, okay, mommy, and doesn't do anything. And guess what happens? I want all you guys to tell me in the message right now if you disagree. And then we can talk about it. And that's why if we have women on there, have men on there, and then we have a good discussion about it. And then we can really think about this. Boy, that's going to be a hell of a podcast now. Now I'm actually excited about it. You said, that was excited about before. But the idea is this. And I'm going to invite pastors, I'm going to invite married women, I'm going to invite single women, I'm going to have people that have been married for 1 year, people that have been married for 10 years, people that have been divorced, people that actually, I'm going to involve capitalists. I'm going to say, listen, we're talking about those things, and it's going to be topics we can disagree on, but all aspects of life, healthcare included. See, it's going to be kind of cool. The I Disagree podcast. Man. And then what I'm going to do, is I'm going to travel to like this place on, here we are, May 16th. I will be in Dakota Lodge in Minneapolis with our wonderful Dr. Kate and our wonderful Dr. Jen. And then on the 17th, I'm going to be over in, I think it is Bismarck, okay, with the wonderful Dr. Hunter. And once again, it'll be in Bismarck, North Dakota. And then the next one, you're going to see, I'm going to be in St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is, once again, just west of Minneapolis. So I'm just doing this as I'm putting together the I Disagree seminar. And what happens is this. Now, for all of you, I know the question is going to be this. It's going to be, Doc, are you going to cover the things that made the hormone seminar so popular? Of course I am. That information was and still is life-changing. It still impacts people all over the world. I still get messages constantly from both men and women, even asking me to please come back and do it again, and how it's affected their life both mentally, both physically, both in healthcare, both in marriage, everything. And guess what happens? I want people to understand that, guess what? I got to get the message back out there. And I'm going to. And I'm going to do just these 3 seminars. And then, believe it or not, I'm going to take a little break because I need to, Aaron and I need to finish up the book and launch it. And then come in the fall, Trinity does have golf and volleyball. So September and October, I'm not going to do much. Well, obviously, I'll be crushing it as far as work with my team, and our podcast will be going crazy. But then what happens is this. But then November, we are spending 20 days in Hawaii and stuff. No joke, there's going to be a ton of people coming out there that way. It's a big event that we do. It's going to be a tradition now that I am starting and stuff like that. But it's going to be teams are coming out there, things like that. We're going to celebrate out there. But then I think at the end of November and the beginning of December, I'm going to do some things. But then next year, I can honestly tell you, so I'm giving you guys a little bit of a forefront to what's happening. Next year, I will probably do between 100 and 150 seminars next year. Our team has that much scheduled for us because our company, even after all the disagreements, not mean disagreements internally, I mean just, for example, me changing the company, me changing life, me changing stuff like that. Guess what happens this? I'm going back to speak because the crowds got bigger, bigger, and bigger, and the message got more and more and more popular. And I love media. I do. I love stuff. I'm on here all the time as far as producing material that way. But there's something about being in person. There's something about being in person with a crowd of people that way. I still like that, okay? So we're gonna be at the different events, and then what happens is next year is gonna be a lot of them. They're really well, but there still will be some this year. So watch, we'll do it here, we'll advertise it, we'll show up on all our medias that way. So it's gonna be probably fantastic. And speaking of all of our media, can you guys do me a favor? Guess what happens? Go to the newsletter. Go to our newsletter. Our newsletter is fantastic. As Brandon puts up the nice little video of our newsletter, as what can happen is this. You can scroll all the way to the bottom, and all it is once again, we are putting out great information on what we're doing. And I would say this, we are going to have my Dr. Patrick Flynn website back up because all that is made to do is to show people where I'm speaking, what I'm doing, all things like that. But you can see, you can put a newsletter that way. It's important, but you know what's even more important? Go up to the top right of that website and push Find a Clinic. Because as you see, these wonderful doctors and students that are finishing up, Dr. Ryan, you graduate here coming up in a week and stuff like that. Guess what happens? You see all the wonderful graduates, all the wonderful docs up at Find a Clinic. They're there. Once again, helps you see what clinic is close to your area. And all these wonderful, as I call them, amazing doctors and practitioners, they're there to actually help and see and disagree with the healthcare that you've had, and that's why we're so busy. So, that being said, let's go into our perspective. All right, our perspective, what our month is continued. I'm going to have to do this quickly because what happens is we have our grand opening. I'm going to be down there about 10 minutes, so we're going to sneak through. You guys got me all riled up and jacked up for figuring out our new I Disagree podcast and everything. But once again, we're going to stem into this because when it does come to allergies, here's what we got to do: is the perspective. I believe most people, and as you saw, Dr. Jason and Dr. Jeremy, when I started teaching them, because that's what we do as a company, we teach immunology, and that's when that's what people realize. That's what I went to school for. That's my original thing. What I went to school for. You see, it's just that if you had a PhD immunology, you really just become a medical vaccine person. That's it. And when I was studying immunology in college, and graduate college, and postgraduate that way, guess what happens? That's why I said it made no sense to me if you really come from a different perspective and go, I disagree with what you say on how to take care of the immune system. Because once again, last 3 years proved how wrong it was in the first place. And that's why I want to say this. When it comes to allergies, the perspective has to be different. Because here's the question I want to pose: if you have a bias towards the medical field, how are we doing? Honestly, how are we doing? More chronic illness, more chronic disease. Look what happens when they dominate in their thinking over the last years. I don't think we're doing too well. And most people don't see that perspective, and that's why they've lost faith in them, all right? Now, once again, have I lost full faith in them? No. There's still some perspectives in emergency medicine that I absolutely love. But here's what happens. You can say this. Now, I'm going to bring this up. Somebody proved to me, well, here, let me say this so you can say I disagree or not. Medicine is not healthcare. Do you know what's really funny? I was researching a condition, and the condition was called pharmaceutical deficiency syndrome. And I see my docs and Brandon and go, what are you talking about? There is no such thing. Is there a vitamin D deficiency? Could there be a vitamin B deficiency? Do you know what's really funny? I just want you to think about this. Do you know there's only one vitamin your body makes? You know what it is? Vitamin D. So God must have thought it was really important. Get some sun today, okay? But I want you to think about this. When we look at how we're doing when it comes to allergies, just understand that there's more allergy shots, there's more people being more reactive. Why is it, if you think about this, when we were kids, some people had allergies. Now it's so common, it's crazy. And I can honestly tell you, the reason why I became a doc had to do with allergies. That's why the immune system is so important to me, okay? Now let's kind of go into this. I want to show you, let's read this a little bit here. Just introduction to allergic disease. I like to pull off their documented stuff, so let's read it here for a second. Allergic disease results from IgE-mediated immune responses to foreign proteins, allergens. The majority of such reactions are IgE-mediated type 1 reactions. Okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Now let's think about this. Let's have this perspective. It says the majority. It doesn't say all. Do you follow me in that? Now, the reason why I want you to point this out, because here's what happens. And if you look at it from a different perspective and how the immune system responds, Dr. Jeremy and Dr. Jason did a wonderful job showing you that, as you can see in the description again, it says type 1 or IgE. You're right. And believe it or not, from a percentage standpoint, it's the smallest reaction you get when it does come to allergic reactions. It's the smallest one. Then why, doc? Why is it that my doctor does a test and says, I have no allergies? Because of their thinking, their perspective. And I'm going to be more bold going forward because it's going to set up our I Disagree podcast. Man, I'm so excited about that we figured that out today. Because I'm going to make some bold statements, and then we're going to go around the room, and we're going to see if people disagree or agree. And if you do disagree, be able to back your argument. So here, watch. And let me say this. An allergist that only tests type 1 hypersensitivity allergic reactions, because that's what every immunology textbook, and I did this the other day because I know I was be covering allergies a little bit. If you go to my house right now, in my office, you can actually see all the immune textbooks on my desk. I have probably read, I don't know, I'm going to underestimate probably 40 full immunology textbooks that way. And not once does it ever say that type 1 are the only allergies. There's type 1, 2, 3, 4. And see what happens, and if you even look in the research, the majority of such reactions are IgE-mediated type 1 reactions. It's not the only. and it's the only one that they deal with. That's why they look as the majority. You know, I love when people say an endocrinologist is a hormone expert and they're the only hormone experts. No, they're the hormone experts when it comes to giving you drugs and surgeries and things like that. But from our perspective, it sounds funny, they don't know crap. See, now you can say, Doc, I disagree. But guess what? What's your argument that you disagree? See, when I talk to these people that want to, use my videos and try to disagree with me, well, what's your argument? Do you know what's really funny? The majority of their arguments are this: he's just a chiropractor. Well, I'm not just a chiropractor, but what if I was just a chiropractor? My perspective is not what you're arguing. You see, when you can't attack a message, you have to attack a messenger. But guess what happens? Then when the messenger calls up and says, hey, you want to have a conversation? Guess what happens? It shows that one messenger is strong and one messenger is weak. So let's go on. Here we go. So individuals who develop each reactions are allergic. Now hold the phone. Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? A lot of people don't. It says right here, individuals who develop such reactions are allergic. You're not born with them. You're not born with them. It's you develop them. Well, if you develop them, you can undevelop them. But in their perspective, they don't know how, because allergy shots do not do it. Here we go. Those predisposed on a genetic basis. Hold the phone, let's come back here again. See, predisposed means the fact that you're not born that way. Genes respond. Always remember this. Genes respond. I'm going to do a whole show just on genes alone. Genes respond to its environment. Well, I wonder how young babies get allergens injected into them. I apologize. Come in contact with allergens. Gave you the answer. That creates an immune response. That creates a allergic reaction. I wonder how. Maybe we can talk about that on I Disagree show. Anyways, those predisposed genetic basis to thin size IgE to environmental allergens are atopic. Most allergic reactions are predicated when it is specific allergens aggregates several IgE molecules attached to IgE receptors on the surface of the mast cells and basophils. Chemical mediators are released such to lead to the immediate signs and symptoms associated with allergic disease, including hives, asthma, and anaphylaxis, which is a big reaction. Most prolonged reactions follow if significant numbers of cells, including eosinophils, macrophages, and lymphocytes, are drawn into sites of mast cell activation. Therefore, allergic diseases must result from a complex interplay of immune cells, foreign proteins, and tissue inflammation. Yes, it is. But you know what some is this? In order to have that major histamine response, and I know both Dr. Jeremy and Dr. Jason talked about it, comes from that mast cell and a major response to histamine, and that's why the #1 product I have ever sold, and actually the #1 product that still is out there today, is based on Albizia because of its effect on the mast cell itself. Because if you look right now, Albizia suppresses histamine signaling by inhibition of the histamine 1 receptor and histidine decarboxylase gene transcriptions. See, if you think of it this way, its effect, and actually just leave it up there, Brandon, for a second. I have the research for you right there to go through all the mechanisms and actions on there. See, the reason why Albizia was so important in practice is because if you introduce a foreign agent by eating it, that guess what happens? You're going to create that reaction, and at least Albizia could suppress it. It's really funny. There's other medications that have highly negative side effects that can do that. I just don't want to, my perspective is I don't want to put something in that can have that negative reaction while I'm trying to react to a negative reaction. I'd rather have something that our body knows what to do. It's funny because one of the ingredients within Albizia, one of the constituents is actually quercetin. And quercetin is known so much. Actually, licorice has quercetin. Do you know how many herbs have quercetin in it? Isn't it funny how nature put things in there already? You understand? So, once again, another one that works a lot with rhinitis, a lot of allergic reactions here, is nettle. Okay, nettle, once again, histamine response to different cells though, to different cells. But it's very effective when it comes to allergic rhinitis. So if you just read it that way, just talking about, once again, inhibition of several key inflammatory agents that cause symptoms of seasonal allergies. just understand the reason why I'm bringing it up to you guys is this, is there is a significant amount of things that you can do to respond to what's going on, but that's the key. You're responding to response even with some natural products. You need to dig deep to see why the immune response is that way. And it could be triggered by things that you did before. And that's why when you have a hyperinflammatory response, because let's say it's foods, let's say there's an infection, let's say you have past history of seeing a pediatrician, if you know where I'm going with that. They can create an immune response that sets you up to be responsive, hyper-responsive to an environment that you would have never reacted to in the first place. So that's why it's important to have a different perspective. Because if you look at the allergy experts, they're so narrow focused on their approach, but I understand why they are. Because if you get a little bit of an inflammation, they're like, if you die, I understand EpiPens. I understand steroids. I understand getting shots and things like that. But what an incomplete picture. And to call yourself the expert and leave everything out, that would be like doing 10% of your homework and saying you still get an A. Just doesn't make any sense. See, it's all about perspective. Now, going forward, we're going to talk about this. Anything that you want to talk about, and I make a statement, it's okay to say I disagree. In the comments below, if I say anything today, just say I disagree and then have an explanation. I love disagreements. Man, I want my kids to talk to other kids and have disagreements respectfully. You see, that's how we grow as individuals. And we can even have different perspectives. I will tell you, to give you an example right now, and this is not a joke, and this is our last 10%. I have a good friend who's a Muslim. And do you understand that I have other Christian people, because it's just me, it's my belief, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the Holy Trinity of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and the rest to me is debatable when it comes to church. Because I watch one pastor talk one thing, and they're using the same verse. See, so I'm like, man, I believe in Jesus Christ, I believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, I believe it's the Trinity, the rest of me is debatable from there. Okay, that's just me, okay? And I have a good friend who's a Muslim. No joke. We have extremely different beliefs of how we get there and where we go. Do you understand? We do. And I love him. I have great respect for him. I have great love for him. Do you understand? It's going to surprise you guys, for all you guys that freaked out about me posting about politics. I have a doc who actually I love. Great man. He's a huge Bernie Sanders fan. Do you understand? We disagree. You understand? We disagree. And I'm even okay with people not even having a good rational explanation of why they like it. I'm okay with it. Let me tell you this. I'm actually a fan of Bernie Sanders, but not the way you think. I disagree with everything with him. But you know what I don't disagree with? He believes everything he believes, and he stands by it. Man, I can respect that as a man. I can. Most of you men don't take a stand for shit. That's it. I actually have more respect for a man that says, I believe in this religion, I believe in this person, and stands by what they believe. I'm cool with that. And I can even live life with you. Because you know why? I'm not going to force my views of Christianity on a person. I'm not going to force my views of healthcare on somebody. I'm not going to force my views of dating on somebody. I'm not going to force my views in this. You understand? Because you know why? Because here's what happens. We all, just like all areas of life, we don't know everything. I laugh when doctors talk so adamantly about the human body that they know everything's happened. Well, speaking of allergies, as you guys learned from Dr. Jeremy and Dr. Jason about the antibodies, it's called GAMED, I-G-G-A-M-E-D. Ask Dr. Fauci, ask your local medical doctor, ask your nurse practitioner, ask all the medical people that so avidly believe in shots. What do IgD antibodies do? And they'll give you maybe a little answer idea, but they say, we don't even really know. We don't even really know. So then how do you know what happens when you say that the benefits outweigh the risk. You don't know that. They're safe and effective. You don't know that. See, I would rather somebody say, we don't know, this, take your chances. That gives a person an honest ability to choose. So that's why when that political post, I said, guys, it's really funny. I do stuff purposely to create emotion. That's why when that post went out there, I was like, a person said, Doc, I love all your stuff, but I'm not going to follow you anymore. I'm like, bye. Because when I'm fighting for your freedom, you have no idea what I'm doing. I'm doing for you and you know it. How about just a thank you? Just like this. Thank you for watching. Thank you for going to our restaurant because our parking lot is probably packed right now. For our grand opening and ribbon cutting. Thank you, Chef Lauren, for opening such a wonderful restaurant and being my partner in this adventure. Thank you for all our amazing docs. Thank you for all the people out there. Thank you for Dr. Ryan being here. Been awesome. Can't wait to see you crush it in practice. EB, you still got until June. Dr. Lucas crushing it. Brand, all the people here in studio. You guys are amazing. As my friend told me, I call you guys all the time, but you are amazing. And you guys are amazing too. I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single video or live stream. Each week on a different perspective, we bring you the most cutting-edge information on health you won't find anywhere else. For more information on this topic, please visit our website. A Different Perspective offers life-changing information and resources to share and explore. A Different Perspective